Hey, welcome back to the show. I've had loads of requests to try and get Bobby Gustafson's awesome guitar tone from Overkill's Years of Decay back in 1989. We'll be using the Marshall JCM800, the SC20 version, a couple of EQs and an overdrive, and just see how we go. Overkill have had absolutely crushing tones on all their albums, but to me Years of Decay is just the one that stands out the most. I think Bobby Gustafson's guitar tracks on that, just the absolute right hand intensity though. It was just brutal from start to finish. I'm not sure exactly what amp they used on that. There's not a lot of data or not a lot of things to read on the internet about it. There's a few different speculations that he might have used an 81 MP1 preamp, but at the same time he's probably used a JCM800 as well, and that's really unclear what they used, but that's all I've got, and I'm trying to keep things fairly period correct just to try and replicate that tone today. But all I know, it's an absolutely killer tone. It's extremely modern for the time, just the way that they push those lower mids, and everything's just so heavy and dense and crushing, and it's a really brutal sounding record, and I really think it was a change in direction at that point when this album was released, that guitars no longer just had the mids all sucked out of them, and they actually had like a whole lot of weight behind them as well. So with the JCM800, I'm really just dialing the bass right up. The mids are pushed slightly, the treble's backed off a bit, the gain's about where it should be at around that 2 o'clock region, just where it works great with an OD. And then onto the pedal board, we've got the Boss Super Overdrive in the front end. And after that as well in the front end, we're going through the MXR 6-band EQ, where we're just boosting some lower mids just to really fatten up the front end of that tone. Then from the front end of the amp, we're going up into the effects slip where I'm running the EQ from hell, and I'm just really sculpting some outboard frequencies. We're boosting some mids in the lower mid region, we're boosting the bass, and we're cutting the the low treble frequencies. It's almost like the high mids, I should have said. And it's just a really small spike. We've got a really narrow Q going on, and we're just cutting that. And for some reason it just works really well with this style of tone where you're really just boosting those lower mids. You can't just boost the whole spectrum. You've got to cut in some sort of places just for those frequencies to really pop almost. For outputting the signal from the 800, we're going through the two-nose Torpedo Captor X, where I'm actually using the Friedman cab. It's a 412 cab with the G1265 speakers in it. It's the same sort of cab that I used when we captured the Ride the Lightning tone. It's that same cabinet. And those G1265s are a lot around in the day. They're a really aggressive sounding speaker, and got a really iconic sort of rich tone to them. It's crunchy as hell, and apart from that, I've just got the Boss loop station on the floor. It doesn't affect the tone at all. I can just loop things and change EQs and make things just sound differently so you're not hearing me chug away. But all in all, it's a really well-rounded, cool guitar tone I've really been enjoying playing this week. I thought I'd just mention the MXR 6-band, just the way that it affects the tone in the front end. And I really am just boosting those lower mid frequencies, and it just makes the guitar seem like it's got a lot more weight going through the front end. I'll just loop a small section, we'll just change some of those values, and you'll just hear how that dramatically changes the way the guitar actually goes into the front end of the amp. And I guess that's really easy to see by doing that, just the way that an EQ affects the front end of a guitar amp. It's totally different than the outboard side. It just changes the way your guitar goes in. You could see the difference when I scooped out those mids, and it just behaved totally different than like when we boost them at 800 Hertz, and you really just get that sort of really choppy sort of like cracked wah sound. But all in all, I think that an EQ in the front end of a guitar amp, it's just as important as having one in the outboard section in the effects loop. But in the front end of the amp, you can sort of offset, especially working with like a Boss overdrive and things. It takes out a lot of the bass frequencies. And here you can put a lot of those lower mids back in just downstream of that. But you still retain a lot of that front end aggression that the overdrive brings. But as far as the EQ goes in the effects loop, I'll just turn that on and off and you'll just hear the difference that that makes. And that's absolutely night and day the way that transforms the tone there. So an EQ in the effects loop, an EQ in the front end, an overdrive, a basic amp, you really can just make so many combinations of tones and just really sculpt things just the way that you want to get exactly what you want to get out of it. But all that being said, I really hope you enjoyed the guitar tone this week. Bobby Gustafson, you're an absolute maniac. That right hand, it was crazy. I can't keep up with half of those songs, like just the intensity. And my pick, I've just pulled out a brand new one this morning and it's already worn down and just about ready to throw. And take care, guys. I'll see you next time.